I'm about to produce my first very different type of show today. We're going to do the Marbella Property Show. And I call it the Marbella Property Show, not because it's just Marbella, it's where I'm based. It's where I'm based. But we'll be doing property and looking at property, we hope, over the weeks in different areas along the Costa del Sol, all the way up to Sota Grande, let's say from Malaga. Obviously, you can't come to us, but we can come to you, and we hope we're getting into your living room. I got three guests with us today. We've got Hayley and Sebastian, Bromley Estates, one of the top and leading real estate companies here. We have Miguel Manzanares from Manzanares Lawyers, one of the most respected lawyers on the Costa del Sol. And we have Tancrede de Paulo, and Tancrede is a mortgage broker. Now, it's one of the things at this sort of time we're going through the coronavirus and the lockdown is that people are buying properties right now, and the way the financial world is at the moment, mortgage will become very prevalent. And I think sure over the next months, over the next years, Tancrede will be a very busy man, as will Miguel Manzanares, the lawyers, and of course, real estate down here. And we're represented this morning by Sebastian and Hayley at Bromley from Bromley Estates. So Hayley and Sebastian, you're very welcome.
Thank you for having us, Maurice.
Great to have you. So what are you planning now, Sebastian and Hayley? What are you planning now? It's a different world that we're living in, a very different world we're living in. We're all locked down. People aren't coming in. We can't have clients flying into the country at the moment anyway. I know there's a lot of inquiries. I think a lot of people are very expectant, Sebastian, for very lower prices. Is that happening? Is that the way it's going to be modeled in the future?
Yeah, I mean, we've ran a couple campaigns that were incentive-based, which we got a really good response from. And yeah, some private vendors have lowered their prices in certain respects. On the new development side, the prices haven't been lowered at all. There are certain incentives with, subject to viewing, and clients being able to do a lower deposit, and then subject to viewing as to when they come out or when the travel restrictions are lifted. But for right now, I'd say the prices are pretty much holding steady. And on the resale side, where the vendors have a little more control, we are seeing some vendors that are a little bit more desperate or willing to lower their price. We are seeing some reductions there.
Yeah, developments, you also you've got two sides, I think, to Bromley Estates. Hayley
Right.
Bromley, and we have Sebastian. It says, I want to pronounce your name right for once, Sebastian. Bockweg. Did I get that right?
Bockweg.
Bockweg.
You could just call him Sebastian Bromley.
Bockweg. Well, anyway, Sebastian, can I, talking about developments, it's a very good time for people who are looking to invest. Of course, banks might not be the greatest place to invest in now to get the sort of return bricks and mortar can get. Investing now from abroad, for what you see in developments, the laws and developments, people have this thing when you mention, and I know this personally, when they mention developments and off-plan, they immediately say, oh, there's been rumors about off-plan going for years all around the world. We're not interested in off-plan. But the profile of off-plan has changed greatly since the government stepped in and put guidelines.
That's correct. I mean, right now, Spain has got many different laws in place that guarantee people's funds. With every private purchase contract signed, the developer is obliged to give you a bank guarantee or insurance policy that guarantees the money. So in that respect, the money is completely safe. Touching on what you were saying earlier with regards to the investment side, yeah, it's a fantastic opportunity, especially because you have the payment plans. So when you're new development, you have, let's say, 2 years to stretch out the payment plans in order to get 100% based of the value of the property.
Yeah, we'll go over to you, Miguel Manzanares. So we were talking about the law and the change of the law buying down here. the change of how long. People often ask the question, how long can they stay here before? Are they allowed to say 6 months before they take up residency? But let's talk about the law here in Spain in buying properties. You've got a simple message of that.
Well, the law, talking about the law when buying property will be really quite long. In that respect, actually, the process in Spain safeguards very well the customer. There is a very protective system in Spain, in which the land registry offers very important information, and also with the legal assistance, you can really have a very strong due diligence report, by which, if you are doing the searches correctly, the system is giving you absolutely every tool to do it, and you can buy the property with absolutely the best and safest conditions. So I don't know really if I am answering exactly what your question was, or maybe...
The simplicity of buying property here, one of the things that I've noticed, and I've done some work with you, of course, in the past, is that you don't actually, after you found the property that you like, whether you found it online or whether you've been down here to visit the property, the simplicity of buying it, once you've signed the contract to purchase, then there's very little more you need to do until you actually hand over the keys. You can go back to your country of origin, whether it be England, Germany, France, no matter where it might be, after visiting you and a notary and handing over the power of attorney to you to complete the sale. You really don't have to be going backwards and forwards to do it. So it's quite simple.
Yeah, exactly. So we try, basically, one meeting is enough with the client. And if that meeting, we could take advantage that they are in Spain to do the power of attorney, that's enough to complete the whole process on behalf of the client without having to come back to Spain at any of the stages. Up to the very end, up to completion, up to picking up the keys from our law firm, they have to do nothing else, actually. Sometimes even the clients don't have to be present in Spain, because they can also do the power of attorney from their own countries. And therefore, this is something that we can, of course, as well, speak to the client and arrange a meeting with a notary wherever the clients are coming from, in order to do remotely the power of attorney too. From the moment that we have that power of attorney, all the formalities can be done by email. And everything that the client's got to be doing is just assisting how we are regularly informing of every single progress in the file. And every single time that we are concluding the searches and investigations, they are giving us the go-ahead to do the signing of the contract, which we do on behalf of the clients. They are giving us as well the go-ahead to sign completion, which we do on behalf of the clients, and we take care of the registration of the deeds as well. So basically, one first meeting is important because you know the person, and it's a very relaxed meeting where they know how all the process works, and they do the power of attorney. But even in case that the clients cannot have a meeting with us, they can also do everything remotely, because we can have today, thanks to the facilities of Zoom or any meeting like this, we can have the first meeting with the client. They can do the power of attorney in their own country, and we can complete the whole process on behalf of the client without having to come over to Spain.
Okay, back to you, Hayley, and don't worry about your Tancrede. I'll be coming to you shortly. Every time you cough, your face comes up on the screen to make sure you know you're still there. Hayley and Sebastian, can we talk about the process of buying? Let's just say I'm a client. I've got in touch with you. I've seen a property I like, let's just say, for 300,000 euros. Talk me through how we do that.
Okay, so initially, obviously, you make an inquiry online or via the phone. Once the inquiry is received, we usually tend to respond to any inquiry within 12 hours. With that inquiry, we give the full details of the property. We'll give you more information regarding, the amenities or anything close to that property. And in addition, we would recommend some alternatives that are similar to the price range or criteria that you've inquired on. Once we've done that, we try to really narrow it down so that the client feels completely comfortable for when they're traveling from the UK or Germany or from abroad. And then once they come down here, they'll meet with one of our property specialists, and that property specialist will take them around and show them all the properties within their criteria. The great thing about Spain and the real estate market down here is that we work off an MLS system, which is a multiple listing service system. So when you get in contact with us, we are literally able to show you every property that's for sale on the market within the criteria that you are looking for. And that goes from resales to new developments. We have access to every bank repossession as well. So really, it's a one-stop shop. We can really take the client's criteria and service their needs completely from A to Z. So then once we've identified, let's say, take you around for a couple of days, you identify the property. At that point, we would also show you, the local amenities and restaurants and so forth. Then we would introduce you to, let's say, Miguel Manzanares, who will take them through the process of the legalities of buying the property. Really, that's it, right?
Did I just go through the costs again? Let's take that example of a 300,000 euro property, the cost from beginning to end.
Okay.
Yes.
Me or Miguel?
Yeah. Well, let's do it with Miguel. Miguel, the cost, the real cost from beginning to end, what it'll cost the client for a 300,000 euro property, what he will come out with at the end.
Well, in the first meeting, we try to make a very simple presentation of the process, and we make a simple mathematics about the cost. And therefore, we normally say 11%. The 11% is because the biggest part of that is transfer tax, which is the equivalent of stamp duty in some countries. Transfer tax is 8%. And there is another 3%, which is 1% estimated notary, lawyers are 1%, and land register and other disbursements of the purchase are around 1%. That 11% is overestimated, is slightly overestimated, but it's giving a good picture to the clients that are buying a property and they are prepared to have a verbal and meeting. Okay, 11% is a good estimation to have. Obviously, on the following days, they will receive a much more precise calculation and breakdown of every tax and every fee that is involved. And they will see that the estimation in total is slightly under that 11% that they were thinking in the first meeting that they had with us. So therefore, that 11% again is 8% taxes, transfer tax, 1% lawyer, 1% more or less the notary, and the other 1% will cover the rest of it. When we do the precise calculations, it will be less than that.
Going back to you, Hayley and Sebastian, that's the cost of what we would call a resale property, a second-hand property. What happens if it's a brand new property, if there is a different cost involved there? Sebastian.
Yeah. Also, I'd like to add to what Miguel was saying there as well, is that although the acquisition costs are 11% and they're about 13.5% on new properties, the great thing about Spain is that the running costs, which is the EB, which is your property taxes, the basura, which is the garbage collection community fees, are very affordable in Spain, which makes it really great for investors as well as just families that want to own a property abroad and rent it out to cover the costs. They're very affordable here, so therefore it's a great way of investing and making some money. Even if you have a mortgage with Tancrede or don't have a mortgage, you're still able to at least probably cover your mortgage, community fees, and all your running costs in addition to putting some money in your pocket. So that's a great thing. So on the new development side, exactly what Miguel was saying, that the transfer costs or the transfer cost is 10%. And then there's the stamp duty tax of 1.5%, which is a difference what you don't have on resales. And then obviously you have your legal and notary fees. So we estimate around 13.5%. That should give you a understanding of what the costs are on new development.
I haven't forgot you, Tancrede. He keeps giving a little cough to make sure he's still with us. Hayley, marketing in the real estate business is a very expensive affair. We all know we're now locked down here in Spain because of the coronavirus, and there's some great light at the end of the tunnel at the moment. But meanwhile, you and Sebastian and Miguel, and I'm sure Tancrede too, have been working very, very hard from home. You specialize in a wonderful way, Hayley, in marketing. Marketing budgets, as I say, in real estate are very high, but as we all know, there's very little business at the moment. What's your magic, your new way of marketing at the moment?
Well, Maurice, surprisingly, there is a lot of business at the moment. We restructured our marketing pretty much from day one of the lockdown, and we deemed all existing marketing pretty much irrelevant because everybody's mindset has changed and will be looking for that special deal during unprecedented times where, you know, real estate agents understand the needs and expectations of our customers, what they're looking for, and what they tend to be looking for at the moment, similar to 2009, 2010, is a special deal. And we found that a lot of our vendors were in a situation where many of them can sit and wait. They can wait for 6 months, they can wait 3 months, they can wait a year until the market stabilizes. However, there's always going to be some families who need to sell soon, who need to sell now. And they gave us instructions to drop prices, and we immediately created some marketing advertisements, made them global, made them visible, put them on all sorts of platforms, and the response was quite outstanding. We were all blown away. We had intended to really downsize our teams due to a lack of client inquiries, and in fact we are running at full capacity right now. We have generated hundreds of inquiries per week of what we would consider, I've personally analyzed every one of them, of the highest quality that we could ever expect in my 10 years experience. Those clients are coming from all different countries, from the UK, from Belgium, Holland, Scandinavia, the USA. I think because of the factors that Sebastian mentioned, we don't have too many competitors around the globe whereby you can still buy an affordable property on the Costa del Sol where the running costs are relatively low, and your yield, if you want to make an investment of it or have part use, part investment, you can still reach between a 7 and a 9% yield, which is really quite unusual. If you couple that with the fact that Marbella is an extremely popular European destination in itself, with its growing infrastructure, schools, excellent medical healthcare, and so on, if you couple that with very low rates of mortgages that will be available during this time, it becomes very attractive. I do believe that there will be a pause whereby clients have to readjust their mindset before they travel. But we firmly believe that once the border control is lifted on the Spanish side, 80% of our customers, and we're not talking about a small report, we're talking about customers in the thousands, 80% of them are saying that they will be on the first plane out. Now that's maybe because they're locked down and we have a captive audience, and that could change because obviously health and safety is first and foremost. Bromley Estates will be implementing deep cleans into all our premises. We will be endeavouring to seek out masks and hand gel, encouraging hand washing within our offices, and providing masks for all our employees, and so on and so forth. So we do feel that there's a real demand for our market, and a lot of that demand is that customers are looking for a special deal. And right now our vendors, our private vendors and developers are, when Sebastian mentioned that they're not necessarily dropping prices, they are giving incentives equivalent to a price drop. These incentives are very attractive, such as, you know, up to a €38,000 drop on specific units, 20,000 drop on the 5 lush remaining units in one of our fastest selling developments, delayed payment structures, refundable deposits. These furniture packs, thank you, Sebastian. These are all really interesting for our client demographic. And it's these offers, incentives that have basically enabled me to market such product in a way that has gained a lot of momentum very, very fast. And we were very, very surprised at where we find ourselves. The problem is right now is we have a trickle effect where we do have some clients buying over the phone. We have made some sales of people that believe in the market. They already know the property down here. They sometimes know the development or know the area. They've analyzed the price drop and they think it's a secure move. Right at the moment, we will be relying on that trickle effect income. That will grow as the borders open up. We feel that there will be more people putting their money down on temporary deposits, and then they will be coming over. Also, the fact that Spain has some of the strictest lockdown conditions in the world, if not the strictest lockdown conditions in the world. I think it's fair to say once the borders are open, people will find comfort in coming here knowing that we had the strictest lockdown in the world. So if their borders are open and the area is deemed to be safe, it's highly probable that it's as safe as it's going to get.
Right. We're going to go over to the man who's been standing in the wings waiting to make his appearance on stage since we started. Tancrede. Tancrede specializes in mortgage, and I've known him, or called him, I've christened him the magician. As honest, I'm going to tell you right now, for many of the clients that I've had in the real estate business, all of them who have gone to Tancrede have received a mortgage, no matter how small the information that Tancrede begs for. Tancrede, you're very welcome today onto the property show. Let's talk about mortgages, the simplicity of mortgages, what you need to get a mortgage, and what's the rates at the moment?
Well, we start the process with a fact find. Obviously, we need to know a lot about the client, specifically their income situation, their current debt situation, existing loans, and so on. The banks here calculate affordability based on net monthly income versus monthly commitments. So obviously those are the two most important questions. Age of the client, which will determine the length of the term, which will also determine the monthly repayments, which will also determine the affordability. So all of those calculations have to be made. Going back to what you said just now about different clients and different circumstances, of course, every bank has different red lines and different considerations, some more important than others. And that's why we would like to think that we can get pretty much every client over the line, because obviously where one bank doesn't work, then there may be other banks that will. As far as interest rates are concerned, you're looking typically at between 1.5% and 2.5%, depending on the lender, depending on the circumstances of the client, and depending on also where the client's from. Clearly, if the client is a resident, for example, it's a much lower risk profile for the bank, and in fact, actually, they can even go down to 1.1%, 1.2% in some special circumstances. So all of those situations obviously dictate what the rate the client will pay. Also, there are fixed rates out there as well. In fact, this morning I got a 1.95 fixed rate for 25 years for a resident client. So it gives you an idea of what is out there. I must admit that was I thought extremely good. Yeah, so there's different options available in different circumstances. But obviously, the most important thing is to ascertain at the very beginning exactly what the client's circumstances are and how we can make it fit with any given lender.
Normally, what's the percentage rate on the loan for the client? Let's say he's an overseas client, not a resident client.
Yeah, right. Well, you're looking at typically, up until the end of last year, 70% was fairly common for non-residents. European, American, Canadian, Australian, and so on. For Middle East and other maybe more exotic countries, Far East and so on, you'd be typically looking at 60%. having said that, at the end of last year, there was some changes to LTVs, and they did come down a bit, mainly due to the new mortgage laws that were implemented last June, which have thrown the cat among the pigeons to some extent, in as much as it's created perhaps more risk for the banks, and therefore they reduced that risk by lowering LTVs, loan to value.
So what do you say to people, and it often comes up in conversation, certainly with agents, should we get our mortgage in Spain? We're English. Would it not be easier for us to get a mortgage from our banks in England, or from Germany, or from Belgium, wherever it might be? What would you say to that?
Absolutely not. For one thing, no foreign, with very few exceptions, a foreign bank cannot actually secure a loan with Spanish land registry. Therefore, they've got no way of securing the loan against a Spanish property. So the only way you could borrow, for example, in England would be against your property in the UK. There are some exceptions. There's a couple of Scandinavian lenders out there. There's one or two in Luxembourg and so on that will lend against Spanish property, but they're very rare, and only with certain nationalities. And the other thing, of course, why take the currency risk? I mean, you know, the pound could go down or could go up against the euro, but it could go either way. And it's better to mitigate that risk by having your loan in euros, which is the currency in which you're making the purchase.
I will be giving all the details after this of how to get in contact with Bromley, with Miguel Manzanares, with Tancrede. Miguel, let me ask you about the clients before we start wrapping up. Clients and where they're coming from mainly. It's always been said the English are the biggest buyers down here. Are they still top of the pops?
Yes, they are. Yeah, they've been. There's been a transition, whether in the beginning of the real estate boom by 1999 up to now, we've been living different times. There was really in the boom before global recession. It was 70% of the clients British, and British and also Irish. They were representing more than 70% sometimes. At the moment, the market is very much more diversified. We have the Scandinavian countries representing a good part of the buyers. Also, Dutch and Belgian are really a good number of buyers. But I think actually that the British market will still represent very close to 50% of the market. So therefore, they mean a lot in this area of Spain, in Costa del Sol.
The incentive, of course, was very cleverly put together, I think, by the Spanish government when they offered what we call the golden visa. I think that's just sort of a nickname for it. Explain a little bit before we let you go, Miguel, about the golden visa.
Well, golden visa, in the end, has been named golden visa when it's not a visa, but residency, right? So this is a residency for investors. The government decided to make an incentive to push investments in Spain in three different ways. One of them was buying shares of Spanish companies. The second one was buying government bonds. And the third way was about properties. In respect of properties, as long as you buy one or several properties that altogether are exceeding 500,000 euros of investment, you could achieve a residency in Spain. And then consequently as well, residency and freedom to travel in any country of Schengen territory. 500,000 in 1, 2, 3, as many properties altogether. And the beauty of this type of residency, I will say that really two factors that make a golden visa unique. Number one, that you are resident in Spain, but you are not having the obligation, the responsibility of having to be in Spain more than half of the year. Normally, when you get residency, you have to prove, you have to demonstrate that you are really a resident in Spain by exceeding 183 days in the year, which is more than one day more than half in this country. Otherwise, you could not renew residency. Well, for this golden visa, you don't have to be 183 days of the year, but it's simply with 1 day every year is good enough. So therefore, that is really a very strong flexibility for those people that they want to have the advantages and the rights of the residency, but they cannot really afford with the commitment of staying in Spain 183 days every year. That's really one strength. The other one is also that with this type of residency, you are not obliged to become a fiscal resident in Spain. You can keep your fiscal residency in Dubai, in China, in any other country you come from, without having to move your fiscal affairs, your fiscal global obligations to the Spanish government. So therefore, those are the two main benefits or advantages that our clients find with the Golden Visa. Number one, flexibility. I don't have to necessarily be in Spain one big number of days, but one day is good enough. Second one, I don't have to move my fiscal matters from my country to Spain. So that's the overview.
And inheritance tax is another incentive to buy and live in our beautiful country. Many people now maybe want to come down here. We're talking during the coronavirus, during the lockdown, things are looking good down here, meaning that we've step by step, maybe the next weekend, we're going to be coming out of our homes and then going back to work quite soon. Airports will open. I believe hotels will be opening in July, they're talking now, and et cetera, Our rate of infection on the Costa del Sol is the lowest in all of Spain. In Marbella here, it's been very few deaths. And in fact, it's a very safe and beautiful place. I was speaking on my show with the tourist minister about this only 2 weeks ago. So inheritance tax, finally, Miguel, is another good incentive to come and live among us here in Spain.
Yes, we are very glad to celebrate this very wanted and very claimed change on our inheritance tax regulations, because Spain, we have 17 different regions. They have the autonomy of a kind of a state, right? All of them with their own autonomy to regulate how inheritance tax is. And therefore, you had Madrid with one regulation, Galicia, different regulation, and Catalonia. We used to have a very heavy tax of inheritance, but then the beginning of the year 18, then it was much more soft. But since June last year, there is no inheritance tax for those family members that are in the group, what we call in the law, group number one. Group number one are spouse and children, and therefore, if your assets, if your liquidity, if your properties are left to those are in the group number one, which is a spouse and children, the tax will be zero. And this is a regulation that is in force since June last year. And of course, it's been a big revolution, because in the end, this means a lot, actually, for Marbella and the whole Andalusia. You own a property here, you can do a will, which is very inexpensive, in which you make clear that you leave your properties to spouse and children. So therefore, you say, I want to leave them to my family members that are in group number one, and group number one, they will pay zero. So it's been a massive achievement that we are celebrating.
Okay, thank you for joining us today. I'm going to go and finish up now with Sebastian and Hayley. I know, Hayley, you've got your ear to the ground, as they say, during this, like most of us, but I think you continue to get informed about the future of coronavirus. Tell us what give us an update of what you found out.
Absolutely. I think it's really important for us to remain up to date and informed, so we know which way to direct the business. Obviously, we have a lot of employees and autonomous employees as well, collaborators that are waiting for news. We keep them informed on a regular basis of what's happening. I do believe that the lockdown is going to be lifted sooner than we anticipated. And it would be our prediction that we should expect to resume up to 50% of our usual business by this autumn. Now, that is providing the borders open and international flights are allowed to come to Spain. Again, I do think there will be a pause period whilst customers investigate the safety, the health, and so on and so forth. However, the Spanish government does need and does rely on tourism. So as soon as those numbers are under control and the hospitals can handle the flow of patients, they're learning more every day. There's a lot of groundbreaking information coming from different hospitals around the world regarding how to treat the virus. So I think that it's becoming less scary and the world seems to be taking hold of it. Spain, I think, is leading the way, and we're very proud to be in Spain, that we're in a nation that has followed our lockdown with all the regulations we've been given, and it has proven that the numbers are falling on a daily basis. I think that people can't wait to get back to Marbella. This is what we've heard from our customers. They seem to be, in times like this, realizing what's important, which is travel, vacations, living out your dreams, and so on. It would seem that buying a property in Marbella makes many people happy, and providing they're in the demographic where their income hasn't been so dramatically affected, there will be many people in that category that will be able to follow that path and will want to do so sooner rather than later, before the market returns back to what it was formerly, and the prices will continue to sustain, consistently climb in this region.
Okay, Sebastian and Hayley, thank you very much for joining us today on our first Marbella property show, and let's hope it'll be one of many. We will be, when the technology, or only in my technology, I am an expert when it comes to the TV remote control, but that's about as far as it is. I was doing an interview the other day to New York, to a cab driver, and 45 minutes into it, I realized I forgot to press record. So that just gives you a sort of how good I am at technology stuck at home. Normally when I do radio shows or TV shows, there's producers, there's et cetera, but there's only little old me here. But thank you to both of you from Bromley Estates joining us on our first show, and all information about how to get in touch will be given after the show. Thank you. Thank you to you, Miguel Manzanares, again. Very interesting information that you've given out, and let's hope that anyone's interested in buying a property or even owning a property, or not necessarily property. I must say, Manzanares don't only deal with property. I think I'm right in saying from accountancy to property to all legal things that you might need. And to you, dear Tancrede, I'd get that cough looked after, I must tell you right away. You really...
It's a frog in the throat, that's all.
Well, it's been great to have you all on my show today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Boris.
Bye.
Quizás sea durante el desayuno o al salir de la ducha. Tal vez sea mientras leemos o cuando miramos por la ventana. Pero siempre nos sorprende un segundo en el que olvidamos qué está pasando. Una vía de escape que nos devuelve la esperanza y nos hace darnos cuenta de que cada día que pasa no es uno más, sino una cuenta atrás para volver a la normalidad. Tenemos todo preparado para darle un giro a nuestra vida cuando eso ocurra. Para que descubras o vuelvas a disfrutar de Marbella. De sus playas, de su oferta natural. De su cultura, de su ocio. De la calidez y la hospitalidad de su gente. De la belleza en cada rincón y de una gastronomía de sabores inagotables. Porque lo que encontrarás aquí, lo que vivirás en nuestras calles soleadas, lo que experimentarás en tu visita es que Marbella también es tuya. No canceles tu viaje, aplázalo. Porque el viaje empieza ya y pronto volveremos a estar juntos. Te esperamos.